right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Mind to Five, the joint conglomeration, cooperation, amalgamation of Psychonaut sessions
baby
and drinks around the table. How you doing, man?
doing all right for a snow day. All snowed in on my end.
Yes, I love me a good snow day. They're some of my
Nice.
favorite days. What are you drinking?
I'm doing Woodford tonight.
Doing Woodford. I picked
Yeah.
up some old Weller. This used to be my old go-to, and then it was kind of out of stock for quite a while. And
I was gonna say good luck getting a bottle because it's still one that people is swamp.
It's smooth. I just think it's
Yeah.
like one of the smoothest bourbons around. I love it. Special
There's been
reserve.
Four Roses for that lately. Four Roses is really
Mhm.
smooth too.
Very comparable, I would say, the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So today we are covering Mind to Five of number one comic single issues, top single
Top
issues.
single issues picked by you in our last episode.
Yeah. So, one thing we've been kind of talking about in our Mind to Five journey is how different we interpret the requirements and the perspectives that come into it. And so without getting into the details, of course, of our Mind to Five yet, how do you think you fared with this? Like, what was your approach?
So I tried to have it be a self-contained story, like
Mhm.
just a done in one. And I succeeded for the most part. I have a couple that they're events that happen during a storyline,
Mhm.
but what happens is self-contained. Like it's basically but it'll make sense when we get into it. But yeah, I that was my main thing was I wanted it to be. I also wanted to stick a little more because I know for a fact that we have an issue that had I stuck with it, it would be on there.
Mhm.
We would both have it on there. So I didn't pick it, much like you last time. I didn't pick it for that reason
Mhm.
because I'll be able to talk about it when you pick it.
Right.
But off of that, I decided that I was going to do not just epic battles or epic, whatever. I wanted to do the ones that hit me writing wise, like the right. And there's an interesting development on that front for me that'll become evident as we go along here. But yeah, so the story that stuck with me the most
Okay.
is what I went with. What about you?
So I didn't really try to focus too much on like a self-contained story. So if it was in the middle of something or whatever, I tried to stick to just issues that just stick out in my mind as this is it for like, if I had to pick 5 comics to be alone on a desert island with for the rest of my life, these are the 5 comics I would take. And a lot of it was kind of a nostalgic hit for me too. So unlike some of my other stuff, there's a lot of just like older, like kind of mainstream hits for me here because it's like that one I picked up off the rack and I always return to it. And I have every single one of them. I own every single thing. But I do have some newbies in here too, but newbies in the sense that
they weren't the originals that you owned.
Well, the comics I found fairly recently, and
gotcha.
that I, I'm loving them so much, and they're kind of putting me on this whole new tear of my comic collecting that I just had to include them because I'm so excited about them. So we'll see.
I get that.
I think you're gonna be able to guess 1 or at least 2 of mine. Maybe 3. Maybe
I'll be shocked. But much like you, and like I would bet the house on this, I would bet the house on one of your picks. I don't know where it'll land. I don't know that it's number 1 or anything, but if it's not in your top 5, not even your honorable mentions, if it's not in your top 5, I would lose my house had I made that bet.
if you're not able to, like, if there isn't at least 4 of them that you're not like, oh, of course, I'm going to be disappointed in you as a friend. That's all I'm saying.
Well, then that remains sound because you've been disappointed in every episode so far.
Well, be disappointed in me because I actually, especially if you tried to not pick ones that I had, I'm kind of getting lost on yours. I have some ideas, but I don't know exact issues. So we're going to...
Sure.
We'll see. But let's get right into it, sir. So since I'm hosting this time, what are your honorable mentions?
My two honorable mentions. So my first one is Web of Spider-Man number 32 from November 1987, Resurrection, part 4 of Kraven's Last Hunt. So this is where I was still a little bit, in the midst of, but I mean, clearly I'm a Mike Zeck fan, and I did not know that until we started doing this show, because much like G.I. Joe 46, he not only did he do the cover, and it's the epic cover. I mean, it's that Spidey coming out of the grave, and
gorgeous cover.
But yeah, anyway, honorable mentions. Moving on. So that's my other, and then my very first comic that I ever read was from June 1981, Incredible Hulk number 260, Sunset of a Samurai. Bill Mantlo, J.M. DeMatteis, and Mike Zeck did Web of Spider-Man 32. And then Bill Mantlo and Sal Buscema. How do you say his name?
Buscema, I think.
Buscema, yeah. So what comes from just reading names and not knowing how they're pronounced. Anyway, I mean, it's got a play on Godzilla.
260 was your first.
There's like...
That's gorgeous.
260 was the very first comic I ever read.
I love that cover. I love that cover even more than Web of Spider-Man. That is beautiful.
Yeah. Oh man, and the comic is fantastic. It's still fantastic. Like, there's a major death in it, but I didn't know that at the time, of a supporting character, and it's got a tank ship golden monstrosity that like gets taken out by an active volcano. It's awesome.
That's incredible.
What about you? What are yours?
Cool. My honorable mentions. Uncanny X-Men 275 was in the top 5, but it kind of got
honorable. Wow.
It got bumped down a little bit, only because I tried to revisit it for this very session, and it's mostly a nostalgic hit. There's like I would say, the reading wise, it's the issue after this one,
right,
that like really has got a lot of great action. Gambit has this like awesome throwdown with Wolvie. Really cool stuff. There's a lot of Claremont verbiage, because this is a seminal issue. He's like really trying to lay it on this one. It's still great because of when I picked this up, and if you watch this channel, this is the issue where Aaron really laid up the X-Men for me and got me collecting the X-Men, and very important to me. Love this issue. I probably will be buried with this issue. And then another comic, my other honorable mention is, I covered it on my channel before, so it's one of my more recent finds, but it's from 1989, Vegas Nights #1. This is the only comic. This glare is horrible. I guess I should take them out of the... I'm going to...
Probably, yeah. I mean, 275 showed up all right, but that's got darker, so yeah, you can't... The glare is really messy.
Cover by Mike Grell, and it's just got that like perfect. Again, it's honorable mentions, but no other comics after this. Watch my my Psychonaut Sessions review of it to know how much I just love this comic, and it's like right up my alley of the kind of shit that I just totally dig. So I'm not going to get much further into it, because honorable mentions.
Yeah,
so if you're all happy with that and you're good with where we're heading so far, I'm going to go ahead and point to you, sir. What is your number 5?
Number 5. All right. So this is another instance of it falling in the middle of a storyline, but the story itself, this little issue, is self-contained, basically. But it is from June 2000, Hellblazer number 149, when Brian Azzarello and Richard Corbin explained to us just how badly nicotine addiction can hit a guy. And John Constantine is in solitary confinement. I mean, he's jonesing so badly, like ghosts of his past are starting to talk to him, and the cell is getting a little full from it all, and he just wants a cigarette. To where the entire prison, he drives them insane, until by the end of it, everybody, like guards, prisoners alike, show up in solitary confinement holding out a cigarette to him. The entire tone, I mean, that Corbin art is, everything is just askew enough that it feeds that narrative so well of just he's losing his mind,
right?
And other people due to that are losing their minds, or they're prisoners. I mean, there's all this other stuff because it is part of the hard time arc. That, you know, there's a lot of plates spinning, but everybody just goes a little nuttier because Constantine's been in solitary for too long without a cigarette. And so, yeah, that's my number 5.
Amazing run. Azzarello's Hellblazer was top notch.
Man,
hella good. And Richard Corbin, Richard Corbin's art is, so he knows anatomy, he knows perspective, he knows everything, but he does make everything off just a little bit. Like you feel like you're in the middle of somebody's dream, you know, that's like all fucked up and askew.
Yeah. Mouths are just a little too big. Eyes are just a little too wide. And I mean, yeah, it's perfect for that issue in particular.
Have you checked out their run they both did on the Hulk? It was like called Rampaging Hulk, or
I did. It was a little darker for Hulk than I like, where it works great for constant. And I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but because I like my Hulk a little less Vertigo.
It was very Vertigo.
It didn't. It doesn't land for me quite as well as Hellblazer.
Cool.
Because you're right. Their Hellblazer run is up there with the greats.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
right.
Awesome.
What's your number 5?
Good pick. Avengers Annual number 17.
Okay.
1988. Is this one that you thought I would pick?
That's not the one that I knew would be in your top 5. But I'm not surprised. It's one like you said that there'd be 3 or 4 that I wasn't surprised. This is
right.
So far, you haven't surprised me yet.
Another nostalgic pick. This is the end of the Evolutionary War, which was a storyline that ran through many of the different annuals in the Marvel Universe. Because that's what they would do. They would put the annuals, and they would, like Atlantis Attacks and others, they would have a storyline that ran through all of them. So you didn't really necessarily need to collect all of them to understand what was going on, but you knew that there was something happening and it would impact all the characters. I picked this up early enough. This was like my introduction to Avengers. So these are my Avengers: Gray Hulk, Hercules, US Agent, Beast,
Yellow Jacket, Jocasta,
Falcon,
yeah.
And it's great. Walt Simonson wrote it, so Walt Simonson's already a genius, and Mark Bright is the artist. Now I don't really know many of the other things that he's done, but the art in it is completely solid. I studied it intensely as a kid. This was really my first. The things that really stood out to me, because there's a story in the back, a second story by Mark Grunwald and Ron Lim, and Hulk is in that as well, but Green Hulk. And it was the first time that I knew as a kid and understood there's different colors of the Hulk. Like, what the hell? There's different versions, and it totally intrigued me. And I don't know if you remember, but that was around the time I started really inquiring to you about the Hulk, because you had like a great Hulk collection.
Yep.
But it's because of this story that the High Evolutionary, even though he's just like this pink hokey character, is just one of my favorite all-time villains.
Out the gate too, like I remember, because if I remember right, I had my issue first, and because you were completely enamored with the cover, and then you got it, and the next thing I know, you're just like, High Evolutionary, like what? You told me about Hulk. Tell me what, and I didn't know much about High Evolutionary at that point. I was like, I didn't. Whatever the draw was for him was almost out the gate. I mean, you were. I don't know what it was about him, but you were enamored. I'll
still devour anything that he's involved with. I don't think he's ever really truly had his full due in the Marvel universe. Like if it was ever given to me by Marvel to say, hey Moeller, we want the Psychonaut Moeller treatment in the Marvel universe, what do you want to do? It would be a High Evolutionary story, and it would be fucking psychotic. Because he's crazy. Yeah. He's just this being who's obsessed with evolution, and he's like, he evolves, like he keeps trying to like boost evolution in these like weird fucked up ways. He's deranged, that I did like in, what was it, the Warlock Chronicles, when he saw the birth of a Celestial and it drove him absolutely mad.
Insane.
He just went
Yeah.
psycho nuts. Like, loved that. That was perfect. But other than that, I haven't really seen many other treatments of him that I totally dig. But yeah, I mean, he's an underutilized villain, and they could really go all out crazy with him.
Right.
So I love this book. It was weird to me too, because I didn't really understand what was going on with the characters, and that was part of the mystique for me as well. So I kind of like jumping in the middle of things. It's fun for me, just all around.
That was at the ends, because that's the last part.
Yeah, but it still sucked me in. I was hooked, and we do need to do like a top comic covers mine to 5, and I just probably gave away one of mine, but such a good one.
Yeah,
that's my number 5.
Yeah,
all right.
It is
okay,
a great one.
So let's go for number 4, sir. What's your number 4?
Number 4 for me is from March 2001, Action Comics 775. What's so funny about truth, justice, and the American way? Joe Kelly, Doug Mankey, Lee Bermejo. I don't know how you pronounce Bermejo, maybe. But
that's a good.
As everyone knows, Superman is my favorite DC character. And this does a really cool. So part of the reason Supes is my favorite is that he's all about hope. He's all about. There's not the, that angst, dark, gritty. Everything that everybody loves about Batman is not there in Superman, and I like that hope and that light and that more sci-fi bend. And so this was just a brilliant summary of how bad, like how evil and destructive Superman could be if he didn't have that moral compass. Like
right.
When because the elite show up, and I mean, they're like methodically murdering villains, like any crime that they come across. Manchester Black is just this cocky, very fitting of the time, early aughts of that's what people wanted in their superheroes. Even prior to that, I mean, the 90s, with everybody having blade and blood and death in their names.
Right.
And so, I mean, I get that the elite is a play on the authority, and I understand all that. But having them and having the public back, like, yes, why don't we just murder the Joker? Why don't we just murder these people?
Right.
Like, kill them, get them out of our lives. And when Superman just totally bamboozles them, like just Manchester Black thinks his team gets annihilated just because Superman's like, hey, you're right, I should do it, you're right, I should go your way. And just the gruesomeness that he makes Manchester see of, like, this is what I could do, this is what I could be if I was like you. And I mean, plus it sets up one of my favorite Manchester Black moments later on, but that's another storyline. But like that mentality that Manchester Black is left, like that fear when he thinks it's all, he's like, oh my God, like, and he tries to tell the public, like, look, see, he's no better, he's doing just what we do. And then Soup's like, no, I'm just showing you that, be thankful that I am the way I am. And it was brilliant, all done in one issue. I mean, the art is so gritty and dark when he goes dark. I mean, it just looks visceral. Like the one, I can't remember if anybody else's, the Hat is a character, but the chick that's got the bug armor or whatever, when Superman like supposedly makes her armor like eat itself or whatever, just like kills her. It's so gruesome. Like it just flies out. He sends the one dude, like, flies super fast up into space to where like he just pops. The Hat, he like sends winds so powerful that like they burst his lungs. And it's just that what everybody was loving about comics, me too. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can dig a gruesome comic, a gritty comic, but much like what I just said with Azzarello and Corbin's Hulk,
right?
Like I just don't I don't like to mix the chocolate and the peanut butter all the time.
Yep.
And so, yeah, the fact that Kelly was able to do that all in one issue, I was so blown away.
If we could go back and redo, because this is one thing I'm hating about these 9 to 5s, because I'm finding, oh, I missed this. If we could redo best writer artist combo, Kelly and Monkey absolutely. I think created
I was surprised.
Yeah, I don't know how it lost.
Well, I mean, I get the cuts, like.
Well, it actually like
you didn't cut it.
I didn't think of it at the time, and that's really my favorite run of JLA ever. It's my all-time favorite Justice League run. And now that I I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, there's some like great single issues in that too. Like I could have picked out a ton. That's like one of the best. Their first issue of JLA is one of the best, just seminal issues of the Justice League ever. It's the best intro to them, who they are, their powers, and the whole run all the way up into Justice League Elite, which actually stars like Manchester Black's like sister or something like that too.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it all. I loved every bit.
But it was Morrison that kicked off JLA, wasn't it?
He kicked off JLA. Mark Waid took over for a while, and then Kelly and Monkey took over. And when they left, I could not get into JLA after they left. They couldn't. That was it. That was like the top of. You can't get a better Justice League run than that run, in my opinion. So solid pick, because I remember this issue. Excellent work.
Some comics, man.
All right. Number 4.
You're number 4. What you got?
Mine is Mighty Thor.
That's the one I knew would be on here.
Yep, 385, 1987. Be Thou God or Monster is the name of the story. This is a single story. This is plot. So it's plotted, and you can tell who did the title, right? So Stan Lee was involved. It's like one of those issues when people talk shit on Stan Lee, it's like Stan Lee creates some fucking magic. This was written like a Greek myth. It is incredible. So Jim Shooter kind of plotted it out. He did the plots. Stan Lee did the scripting. Eric Larson did the pencils. But it doesn't look like Eric Larson. So Eric Larson a while ago just posted all of his original pencils on his page, and it looks like Savage Dragon kind of stuff. And so the reason it looks the way that it does is that Vince Colletta did the inking, and he went in and like really like cleaned it up. And I think from what I hear, speaking of Sal Buscema, like went in and like helped clean it up too, because his Eric Larson style was like way too off. It wasn't like the Jim Shooter style. But so the reason why I love this issue is not because of all that, because Vince Colletta is like fucking awesome. I love his inking. But it's like the best fight scene ever in comics. It is just like one whole fight. The whole comic is just one giant fight. I think we must have acted out this fight like a ton as a kid.
So many times.
It's just perfect. And all it is, there's no complications. It's just, the Hulk's causing trouble. The Thor wants to prove himself as a god and gets into a fight. Thor starts saying, okay, I think I'm like getting a little too much into hubris here. And then Hulk just gets bored when he sees that Thor loses his steam, and it's just like, okay, fuck you, bye, and just leaves. And that's it. But the whole thing is Thor struggling on whether or not he's a monster himself or a guy. It's like understanding the weight of responsibility that comes with the power that he has. And it's in that Stan Lee style script, which is just like that radio style voice. It's so perfect. It's just one of the most perfect comics of all time.
So it was the first I ever bought of Thor. It's the first I learned of Thor, and the only reason I bought it was because Hulk was on the cover. And that whole, like you're saying, like where Hulk messes with his head so much by being so like, we're just gonna do this. To where he's like, what am I doing? I'm destroying a city. And that's what I love about the way it's paced, the fight, because it's not, I mean, we've both certainly seen comics where it's just battle, 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 and it's cool, you know, spreads, and like it looks neat, but there's no this. It's like a ballet. Like there's an entire narrative structure to the fight.
Yep.
Even when they're not talking, like
Yep.
you're watching Thor devolve into the beast that he sees Hulk at. Oh,
Yep.
it's so good.
Marvel, DC, you want me to start collecting your books again? Make fight scenes like this. Stop with the fucking splash page bullshit. I want to see the fight roll out. I want to see what's going on. I want to see that ballet like you're talking about. I want to see a choreographed fight. That's what comics are made for. Perfectly. Yeah. Action comics anyway. Like action with that. Right. It is perfect. Perfect. Love it. Mwah.
Yep. That's one that was going to be on mine, but I knew it would be on yours, so I opted out.
You
but
do know me. Okay.
That's the one I would have bet the house on.
All right. Number 3, sir. You're up.
Number 3. From January 2002, Lucifer number 20.
Oh.
The Thunder Sermon by Mike Carey and Dean Ormston. It's where, I mean, all the heavy groundwork that Carey does for this series really starts to get a lot of steam here. Like Lux, the piano bar that Lucifer has now, I mean, we're past, he's got the letter from God, he's got his own creation, and Lux becomes this beacon for all manner of creatures, earthborn, otherwise. I mean, there's like a company from Fairy, there's a representative group from the Lilum, an ex-god, Pharamond shows up, Archangel Michael shows up, and while he's contending with all of this, there's these 2 chump kids from Salt Lake City that have been called. The girl has anyway. The guy only comes because he's got a crush on the girl, has a lifelong crush on the girl. And they show up. There's no doors, which Lucifer makes a point when he's talking to everybody that shows up. He's like, look, there's literally no doors on. I couldn't have been more clear. I don't want any of you involved with what I'm doing. Like, I don't care about you. Go away. And so these 2 start scaling the walls, and they get into the Lux tower now, because I mean, basically it's kind of like the TARDIS in reverse. It's bigger on the outside than it looks. And so they start scaling it, and while he's contending with all these heavy cosmic spanning conversations, these 2 start dying. Like they start just dying. I mean, that's basically what it is. And so it turns out they've been there for days, even though it seems like hours, and they just keep climbing and climbing and climbing. They can't figure any way out. And Lucifer takes the time to, in the midst of all of what he's dealing with, as they're dying, like the girl's dead, the guy's about to die, and he's praying, and Lucifer's like, yeah, I'm not going to help you. I mean, the line's basically something like, you know, you broke into my house and then you prayed to him. Fuck off. And then they die, and he just goes back to what he was doing. And I like, so it's not in the mix. It's one that I debated on because it is a standalone. Their part of it is a standalone. Everything else is, you know, the calm before the storm of what's about to happen, because this is the issue. Also the issue where Lucifer splits the gate amidst every realm. Right. So as a big middle finger to God, like he sends Michael to be an emissary to talk to. No, this is what I think of that, and that kicks off the whole rest of the saga. And I mean, this is issue 20, so there's like 55 issues. So technically, it is a standalone. I mean, 2 kids are even on the covers, like climbing up the side of the building. But that's the part that I remember most, is watching them, because the kid is the guy is so happy because he's had a crush on this girl forever, and he just went along with her pull. She's like, God's calling me, and it just turns so dark and sinister. She turns on him at one point where she's just like, you're an idiot, because like just the weight of everything and not eating, even though it's only been a couple hours to them, like their bodies are dying. And so just watching that whole moral play unfold, and then just to have Lucifer show up at the end of it to be like, fuck you. Shouldn't have prayed to him. Carey was brilliant in that series. This
is like, I'm not saying much because this is going to be featured in many 9 to 5s for me in the future. This series does everything for me. It does absolutely. It's too bad that like none of the artists had actually a tenure for like 6 issues, because I would have included it in our.
Yeah,
that's the only thing about it, that it would have been nice to, you know, kind of have that. But everything about this series just, it's perfect.
Well, you prefer it to Sandman, don't you? Even though it's a spinoff of Sandman, don't you prefer it to Sandman?
Okay, this is a spoiler for anybody who's watching this show, but it's my number 1 favorite comic series of all time. All time. It's my favorite fiction work of all time. It is number 1 for me. It everything that I want to ever be as a writer, Mike Carey delivers in this work. It's incredible.
So good. There's so many little alcoves and little caveats of just brilliance throughout the entire series.
Oh, this is what, and I didn't know, I couldn't pick with this one. Like, Lucifer didn't show up because I could not pick out of this. I thought about it. I went through all of my issues. I'm just like, I can't leave out the whole. I don't know what to do. It became a panic issue for me. So I just stuck with nostalgia. But
well, like I said, 20, I almost didn't, because the single issue aspect of it is literally probably only about 20% of the book.
Yeah.
But it's a strong enough through line, because what they're talking about and what they're doing, like, metaphorically ties into what he's doing. So
right.
That's why I counted
it's so hard. I mean, that's where Sandman is different, and it probably has a benefit in terms of talking about it, because with Lucifer, it's so hard to talk about one issue without bringing in the context of fucking everything.
Right.
And some people might say that as a negative, but it's also a testament to the intricate tapestry that Mike Carey wove so perfectly. And fuck the TV show. Fuck it.
And the TV's good. I actually don't mind the TV show.
No.
It's just not. It's apples and oranges.
We're ending this call right fucking now.
We're done.
What the hell? No. All right. We're just gonna have to move on. Whose turn is it? Is it your turn? My turn?
It's yours. I just did that.
Sorry, I got lost in like, he's talking about Lucifer. I was
just your number 3.
My number 3, 1987. Again, a lot of 87s, 88s, 89s. G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, number 61.
Another one I knew would be on here.
So look how tattered this is. This is my original, picking up from Food Fair. This thing has been read so much. I tried to reread it again, and my wife Autumn was like, honey, that looks like it's about ready to fall apart in your hands. I'm like, it's well used.
I need to buy you another reading copy.
I do need to get another reading copy. You brought up this particular run, I think, right?
Well, no, it came up when I brought up the run I brought up.
Okay, that's right.
That's
right, because there is a different artist for this one than there is in the next issue. Marshall Rogers, Larry Hama, of course, is the writer of this brilliant series. That's nothing like the cartoon, except, you know, anytime they introduced a new action figure or character, he had to bring it into the series. But Marshall Rogers did this issue. The reason why this sticks out for me is because it is the first G.I. Joe book I picked up to collect. Blew me away because I was just a cartoon fan, toy fan, and you were like, dude, you've got to check out the comic. And I went to Food Fair and picked this sucker up. It blew me out of the water, because not only did I get to see Cobra Commander's face, I got to see what Cobra Commander looked like, but he fucking gets killed. Right in the middle of the issue, and I'm like, what? And Cobra Commander has a son named Billy, who's a ninja with an eye patch and a cyborg leg. And what? This is fucking amazing. This is like, and then Fred the clone takes over for Cobra Commander, so nobody knows that Cobra Commander is dead, and he's fucking like acting like Cobra Commander, and the only people that know are Baroness and that eagle dude, whatever the hell his name is, I can't remember. The hawk guy, the bad hawk guy.
I don't remember.
He had a full hawk suit and everything. Anyway.
Oh, Raptor.
And then, and in this, like, Stalker, Outback, Snow Job, and Quick Kick are like going undercover espionage to go rescue a journalist in another country. So they're not like in GI Joe garb. They have to be in all, like, it's pure like spec ops espionage. It's not lasers. They're all shooting. They're getting blown to hell. And then Stalker and Quick Kick and Snow Job get captured by the people in this the military of this country, and they're screwed. Everybody's blown to hell. And it was just like, what? No, but GI Joes aren't winning. There's blood. People are getting like this is incredible. Like, this issue blows me away to this day. What's kind of cool about this issue is Cartoonist Kayfabe did a video where they showed the Todd McFarlane version. So Todd McFarlane originally drew this issue, and somebody made an editorial decision for Marshall Rogers to like redraw the whole thing. And of course, they're huge Todd McFarlane fans, and they're like, oh, he makes it much more exciting and blah, blah, blah. I call bullshit. Marshall Rogers' work in this is so clean, it's crisp, and it's like you feel like when you see the military vehicles, the guns and everything, you feel the weight of it. You know, it felt so real. Whereas McFarlane, I'm not knocking McFarlane at all. It's just his work's
different. Yeah, it's
different, and even though it's hyper detailed, it's also cartoony.
Right.
And so this book does it for him. You'll likely see me do a mock-up of this cover sometime in the near future for one of our comics, because this book means so much to me, dude. This book means so much to me. It's another one that I'll probably be buried with.
It's so yeah, your casket's gonna be running out of room.
My poor family. You can't see the body. It's just all comics in the casket. All right. All right. I'm forgetting I'm hosting now. All right. Let's go to number 2.
All right. So I went back and forth a ton. And between these two in particularly, any given day, I mean, it's like neck and neck. They might flip-flop. But for today, my number 2 is from September 2000, Preacher number 65.
Oh, yes.
And this, much like Lucifer, was a situation where, it's in the middle of, I mean, it's basically all the story threads converge on this issue. Like, I mean,
it's a conclusion of Alamo, right?
Yeah. You've got Featherstone facing down with, finally blowing up at Air Star, and that plays out the way it does. I guess I should say spoilers on some of the stuff, but some of these are so old. I mean, it's 22 years old, so
right. If you haven't read it by now,
yeah. Hoover and Air Star, Tulip blasting through a ton of Grail soldiers until it was just her and Air Star blasting away at each other, and her being the one that takes them out. But the whole issue for me, the reason it's number 2 right now, is Jesse and Cassidy fighting in front of the Alamo. Like, the previous issue they're sitting at the bar, and Jesse's just like, Cassidy's wanting him to like, look, rip into me, make fun of, like, I'm an asshole, tell me I'm an asshole. And Jesse even says something along the lines of like, I'm not gonna swing at every one of these you're giving me. But he just keeps cutting him with words. So where in this issue, they come out, they're in front, and Cassidy's like, he had already said he wasn't, I don't have to fight, I can just stand there. But he uses the voice on him and is like, you're going to fight like hell. And so they get out there, and just the way that Jesse, like, he's completely in the right. Cassidy's a piece of shit.
But it made me feel bad for Cassidy too.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like dishing, and it finally gets to that point. Like, he's punched him in the head, and blood is in his eyes, and he's just beating the hell out of Cassidy, racks him, knocks him on the ground. But it gets to that point in their conversation where he's like, can you? I can't remember exactly how it plays out, but it's like, basically, look, is there any? Did you mean it when you sized me up and saw that I was a good guy? Was that real or whatever? And Jesse won't give it. Like he won't. He's just like, look, I thought you were a good dude, but whatever. And then when Cassidy blows up, and he's like, you know, it's hard to stand by your friends when they're on the road to hell, and that's what finally breaks Jesse. And then he breaks Jesse's breastbone, like punches him out, and they commit suicide by sunlight by saying like, look, it means everything that you took my hand, but I am a piece of shit. I'm not worth saving. And he burns up. And then Airstar has a sniper take the shot and take out Jesse. And like Tulip runs down and Jesse's dead. And that's the issue. It ends there. And it is the one of the best. Like the little bit of epilogue after, I'm all right with. I know people that are like, oh, you gave it kind of a happy ending, but I even thought that was cool. What Cassidy had done when he's like, when they leave the bar and he's like, can you give me a second? And that's when he goes and makes his deal with God, where it's like, whatever happens, Jesse lives, but so do I. And so, but you don't know all that at this point. At this point, these two friends, and Airstar is just sitting up on the roof, just like, oh, young, this is the best. These friends are hating and killing each other. I love this. And then he takes him out, and like at that point, Airstar's dead. Like everybody's dead but Tulip. And she's just standing over the love of her life's body. But the whole build up to that, like the fact that you had these 60 plus issues of storyline that Ennis had built to culminate in this Alamo battle was just so well done, so heavy, such good writing. To where, yeah, the fact that because I'd come to hate Cassidy just like I was supposed to.
Right.
Where, I mean, he beat women. I mean, he was a drug addict, but he beat women. He totally screws over Tulip.
Total scum.
And like, to make me feel bad for him at that point where, I can't say, Steve Dillon's art sells that, like the pain on Cassidy's face that, you know, I'm hurting so badly, I'm going to hell and you can't even take my hand. And then to have him be like, no, I know everything you said was right. Like I suck and this is my penance.
Yeah.
So good. So very good.
Heart-wrenching. Yeah. Excellent. That whole series deserves to be in the top tier of like the other works that we were talking about, because it's perfection all the way through.
Yep.
Oh my God. I keep talking about so many things. I always feel so high after these Mind of Fives.
I always go to freaking Amazon and spend too much money because I'm
buying
drinking
too much shit.
And then we're
All right. So my number 2 is a newbie for me, but it's an oldie. And it's 1985's Black Zeppelin #1, Gene Day's Black Zeppelin #1. So just found this about a year ago or less in a flea market, and it blew my mind open. And now because of this book, and that's why I pushed it all the way up to number 2, because now I've just been on this tear because of this book of seeking out black and white 80s books, especially like black and white 80s anthologies, have become some of my favorite works ever. And this is like, look how fucking rock and roll heavy metal this goddamn like Michael Moorcocky bullshit. This is like perfect, hand painted, and then it's just all black and white goodness. You can see the review on my goddamn channel if anybody go look at it. I'm reviewing all the Black Zeppelins. I'm getting ready to review Black Zeppelin 5, but is actually a culmination after Gene Day died, who's like in the Cartoonist Hall of Fame. I think he got a posthumous like Eisner Award. He's known for Master of Kung Fu, his work there and his work on the Marvel Star Wars, and he was incredible, and he died way too young, but left this whole legacy behind. He was the mentor to Dave Sim, and Dave Sim's wife, Denis Lubert, is the one after Gene Day died, said, he's got all these other works that have never seen the light of day. And a bunch of other people that, Gene Day loved this sort of like black and white zine sort of anthology stuff. He had one back in the 70s called Dark Fantasy List, so let's do another one. And so with his widow, Gail Day, Denis Lubert, and Joe Urslavas got a bunch of people together. This particular book, it has a Dave Sim story, Charles Vess, one of Charles Vess's early works, And of course, Dan and David Day, the Day brothers, and I did an interview with David Day. There's like this whole Gene Day legacy out there, and I've been obsessed with it. I don't know why ever since, but I'm loving it. The more I dig up, the more I find how many people saw him as an influence that we saw as influences, but he was never a name for me as a kid. I had no idea who he was.
Right.
But he touched Star Wars. He touched, Master of Kung
I mean, I
Fu.
definitely knew his work. I couldn't have told you his name though.
Right. But
at that age, I mean, I was too young.
Incredible stuff. I mean, really, this like sent me down this like whole new vein of my collecting, and I love this book for it. This book never gets old. I pick it up and read it like all the time. So, it's in my top 5. It's number 2 now, just because it's in such an exciting space for me. I don't know over time how much, that will hold up. So that's the caveat of these Mind of Fives. It's like, it's where I'm at now. Right.
Yeah. That's what I meant with the last one. I mean, that's what I was with Usagi on that list. Like, yeah, I'm completely immersed in Usagi Yojimbo right now, but will that be the case later?
Right. But love it. Love this shit. Love that whole
It's definitely sent you down that rabbit hole, because you were snatching up every kind of black and white 80s anthology you can get your hands on.
I still got so many that I haven't done a Psychonaut session on that I need to get around to doing that, but they're so good. It was an opportunity for people to just see all this weird eccentric stuff and people I've never heard of before, and it's just, I love it. It's just so much fun. So anyway, that's my number 2. Now let's bum drum roll. We're getting to the final bit here. Sir, what is your number 1?
My number 1 is from August 1990, Sandman Volume 2, number 18.
Yep.
A Dream of a Thousand Cats. Now most really people would probably pick the Shakespeare Midsummer Night's Dream. Speaking of Charles Bass,
just because it won a literary award, I mean, come on.
No, it is fantastic, and it would probably have made the list because it is a great standalone. But the difference for me was it's what I love about Gaiman's work. I mean, this is basically a white kitten gets caught up in this, all these cats are going to go listen to this Siamese cat who wanders the earth telling tales of having visited the Dream King. And the fact that, reality used to be cats were in charge and humans were my size. And then a human just says, hey, we can dream this different. Like, we can make existence different. And they dream it. 1,000 humans get together and they recreate reality from the Big Bang on to where humans are the apex of Earth and cats are where they've ended up. And so just the power of story, the power of dreaming, the power, that, through the dreams. I mean, it's hokey sounding, but within that narrative, through the power of dreams, you can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's my main draw to Gaiman, is that power of story, and that story shapes everything we do as individuals and as a people. And so this is one of the best single issues of Sandman, of which there are a bunch. And I mean, the Shakespeare Midsummer Night's Dream is one. The reason it didn't is because there's a lot of, which sounds stupid, I mean, because it's brilliant. Like, there's the level of, this is the story of, a playwright who is now in the realm of fairy and doesn't know it. You've got the level of the historical aspects that's being woven into this narrative that, was real. But so it was the knowledge of the existing footnotes that draw to the story made this actually, in this instance, lose out to issue 18, because 18 is such a simple narrative. It's such a simple, dreams and stories have power. This is what you can do. And I mean,
Kelly Jones's art,
I mean, sells it so well. I mean,
Yeah.
the cats look different. The cats look, I mean, when the Siamese is telling her story, and you know, when she's a young cat and the tomcat she falls for, and then she has kittens and her owners kill them, and I mean, the art sells it all extraordinarily well, much like Dylan on Preacher 65. Like,
Right.
the art is huge. I mean, that's when the whole argument of which is more important, which I think both are important, so I think it's a silly argument, but which is more important to comics writers or artists, like, that's why I think both are important, because it is a brilliant script by Gaiman, but Jones's art sells it where it on, because on paper it's like, okay, these are cats and that's neat, but they seem more like characters in the issue because of Jones's art.
I think you're right.
So that's my number one.
Totally silly argument. That I hate that argument. That and a lot of people will usually lean towards artist over writer. I've picked up plenty of stuff where the art is incredible, but I'm bored as hell, or it doesn't do anything for me because there's no context to it at all, and they're both equally important. I 100% agree. 100%. Yeah, wonderful pick. Brilliant work. Kelly Jones actually had a lot of like early, I've been finding his name and work a lot in a lot of these like early 80s black and white books. Really? Like, he'll just do random pinups and shit, and like, that's where it seemed that he got his start. A lot of independent stuff in that whole Dave Sim arena, which is weird, but you know, considering he ended up becoming so mainstream. I mean, he's like really well known for his Batman stuff, but I love it. I love his work. Everything's so textual and good.
Yep. Big fan.
So good. Okay.
All right. Number one.
Your number one. That's amazing. My number one, G.I. Joe Real American Hero number 21. I'm such on a G.I. Joe kick right now. If you can't tell, ladies and gentlemen, so this is actually G.I. Joe magazine, but it contains a reprint of number 21, and that's the cover. And that kind of that's a good segue from the conversation we just had to this, because Larry Hama did like both the writing and the layouts and everything for this. I mean, he basically did the art. Steve Linola just kind of finished it up, but it's the famous issue of like no words at all.
Right.
Just Snake Eyes going in to rescue Scarlet, but Scarlet didn't really need rescuing, and you know, them infiltrating and going through like a Cobra temple and eventually like escaping together. Not a single word spoken, but like, it is the perfect representation of comics to me. I mean, even if I wasn't on a G.I. Joe kick right now, I mean, this is comics 100%. It like, you're able to tell an incredibly clear narrative. It's kind of like the Mighty Thor issue, you know, even if that didn't have words, you would kind of get what it's trying to say.
Right.
But it's that writing aspect of being able to lay everything out, to understand the language of comics, which not many people do. Larry Hama sells it 100% in this story. It's perfect in every sense of the word. I don't know what else I can say about this. Yeah. Unless you have anything to say.
I really don't. I mean, yeah, it's the narrative is so clear of what's going on, what's, you know,
and it's kind of a standalone issue.
What plays out, yeah.
Because it's literally called Silent Interlude, and it's an interlude between the stuff that happened before and the stuff that's going on after. Right. So it's a complete standalone story. You don't need anything else. So you don't need that whole last episode, blah, 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 like Jim Shooter really liked to do. But yeah, I just love, and it's Snake Eyes.
Right.
Which is the coolest fucking character ever. Because he's mute and he's mysterious, masked ninja / you know, GI.
Well, and that's one of the issues that, I mean, catapulted him into superstardom within the Joe fan base.
Yeah, that's true. Because before
Like,
that, he was just kind of this weird, like, what's this dude? It wasn't, yeah.
yeah, he was just a commando in all black. And yeah, I mean, it may have been prior to that the ninja stuff started coming. I don't remember, but I know that issue alone is the one. The nuance of it being, or the novelty of it being silent. He's breaking into a compound. Like, yeah, I mean, after that, it was Snake Eyes was everywhere.
Yep. And as well, he should be well deserved. But yeah, that is my number one. Is G.I. Joe number 21. I think that's probably one out of this whole stack. That and Mighty Thor are probably the two main solids that will probably always remain there.
Right.
All the others kind of, they waffle back and forth, especially in terms of, I'm measuring nostalgia over, like,
right. Nostalgia wise, there's no way Avengers Annual doesn't make it nostalgia wise. Now, if you broaden that to, I mean, felt, hit the hardest or, whatever, maybe it wouldn't, but nostalgia factor, which is how I opened these. I opened a little nostalgia heavy with these Mind of Five. So I was trying to, so the thing that I found interesting when I did this though, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna steer clear of battles, because that's kind of where my head went initially with the Thor issue, and I was like, okay, what I'm gonna try to get away from that. In doing so, all of my top 5 are DC Vertigo.
I noticed.
So all, like, my only honorable mentions both are Marvel, but when I focused more on writing that meant something to me, to where I remembered, albeit maybe not verbatim, bits of dialogue, it was all DC Vertigo.
Right.
And I don't know that says anything about the state of writing at Marvel or anything, but as far as my takeaway, clearly I prefer the writing from at least the early 2000s era, basically like when we moved to Kansas City. So like the last 20 years, that little era of writing, because I mean I haven't read any Marvel DC really for at least probably 10 years.
If somebody had to put a gun to my head and ask me what are your 2 favorite eras of comics ever, I would probably say 80s, mid 80s, mid to late, like black and white especially, but pretty much all of it, and Vertigo 100%.
Yeah,
I like
so much good stuff.
Vertigo, probably, like when we do top series, like so many of them are just going to be Vertigo. There's just hands down they created solid work, and that was their, I think it's because that they focused on kind of moving out of just the run-of-the-mill lane of these like superhero serials,
right?
And let's fucking tell solid stuff. We got this amazing British invasion of writers coming in.
Yeah, tons. I mean, between Alan Moore and Morrison and Gaiman and
pulling in weird, obscure talent like Sam Keith, Kelly Jones. These people that were not mainstream at all. So you're getting this incredible like venue of art as well. Like it's just, and then like that's what I love. I think that's the thing about Sandman, and even Lucifer suffers from this. What makes Preacher so great and things like Transmetropolitan and others is that writer-artist team doing one solid work together and completing it together. It's just, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like having that full solid package for 60 some odd fucking issues.
Right.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's like having a trilogy of movies where the same actor plays the same role throughout all of them without getting recast. Yeah. I mean, it totally does. Like those, when the whole project, the whole various arcs and everything. Well, I mean, Bendis and Bagley, like on Ultimate Spider-Man, they didn't do the entirety, but I don't think, maybe they did, I don't remember, but tons and tons and tons of it. Basically the entire time I collected it, they did. And yeah, it's that same thing where it just adds a little bit of something that takes it from being, this is fantastic, to upper echelon, this is an epic.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's why most of the time, I mean, I know we did like single creator books and stuff last time. But most of the time, I think, even though I love that, I totally dig it. I love to see when two people come together and create something together. It's fascinating.
Well, and there's a reason. That's why we kicked this whole show off with duos.
Yep.
Like, because of that. Now, the only thing, so, I mean, as far as you mentioning us doing, greatest titles or whatever, I'm not in a place where I want to do that anytime soon, because I seem to keep mining the same little reservoir. So I'm trying to think outside that box.
Yeah.
Because all of my likes are very, in comics, it's not that I haven't tried tons and tons. I mean, I've read all kinds of indie stuff, but as far as what's stuck with me, I don't, I kind of live in that Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse.
Yeah,
space.
we're kind of getting to the point where a lot of the stuff that you've covered and I've covered, like anything we start doing now, there's going to be so much overlap.
Right.
And now we're just trying to avoid each other.
Right. Which defeats the purpose of a 9 to 5. So, because now we're having this weird little caveat. This is not my actual 9 to 5. This is my not Molar's also picked 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And so
that's a good segue though. What do you think we should do for our next 9 to 5? It's in your court now.
Let's see. I think I actually thought about this a little bit. I want to do something with music this time.
I was thinking that too. That's awesome.
All right. I want to do, how do I want to word this? The top 5.
How do you want to word this?
Well, I don't want it to be, I know what I don't want it to be, so I wanted to word it in a way that it is what I want. The top 5 albums you've written to. Albums, not artists, not music type, not genre, but albums.
Of all time or recently?
Most frequently.
Most frequent. Oh, this is going to be weird then. Okay.
That's fine. That's
most,
fine. Well,
if it's most frequent, like if it's any time in the past, like 3 or 4 years to me, it's going to be vastly different than, this is going to be weird. This is going to be interesting.
This is the most frequently. Well, and in part, the reason I got to music is because I know we both have eclectic tastes, but they don't cross over a ton. They do cross over. We've got like a little nostalgic periods that cross over, and we've got certainly genre types that cross over, but album wise, there's a little, but there's not a ton. Now I say that, watch what's going to happen, because we're not like, well, Moeller won't pick this. It's going to have a lot of crossover.
I don't have any concerns that there's going to be any crossovers on this one.
I'd be shocked now that I've picked it, of the 2 that I can think of that I've done most frequently, I'd be shocked. That's a bet I would also make. I'd bet the house that you would not pick it.
Yeah, I'm already logging my top 5 in my brain, and I don't think, I don't. So I would actually venture to say, let's not even do honorable mentions on this next one.
Just 5?
Yeah, just do 5. Because I think with comics, we have so much we love. It's hard to even get a top 20 with a lot of these. So I think with the music, we could probably just stick, unless you want to. I mean, you're hosting the next.
Well, if you've got any, if it turns out that you have some bleed over, then go ahead and pick your 2. I could stretch it to pick 2, because now as we're talking, I've got my 5 that I've written most to. I could pick 2 that I've written frequently, not most frequently, but I could
stretch it, but I don't need to. Comics I needed to, because
behind the scenes, if it turns out we need to, we will. And if not, we'll just do our top 5.
Oh, I like it. I'm liking this. This is cool. I like to know what music people are creating to. That is really important to me for some reason. That good pick, man.
It'll be fun. What do you got left for this one? Anything left in the tank?
I don't got nothing, except I hope people go to Drinks Around the Table, AaronConaway.com, buy all your shit, and I hope people come see us at Comic-Con in April, because I don't know if you can see, but I got like boxes of comics ready to be purchased and savored
Trade
by.
paperbacks and comics, and he's got all kinds of boxes. I've got some, but they're not in here. Should also go see Daniel Moeller. Wait, is it Daniel Moeller? It's Daniel Moeller.
It's Daniel Moeller.
It's
DanielMoellerWeb.com.
Web. Okay, that's what throws me off, because your Instagram is Daniel Moeller Web, but your Facebook is way different.
What? My Facebook should be Daniel Moeller Web.
No, it's like Astral. It's got like all the little parts. Your Facebook page.
I don't think so. I think my handle is at Daniel Moeller Web. Anywhere you go, it should be. It used to be Daniel Moeller, people, but I forgot to renew my URL one year, and then some like bot purchased my URL out from underneath me, danielmoeller.com. So when you go there, it's just like some weird site of some weird obscure medical shit that's selling shit.
Sons
and
of
it's like,
bitches.
I know. What are you gonna do? But
well, and before this latest iteration, I have so much stuff out there that says go to aaronconaway.me, and it's like, shit, I'm not there anymore. So I had to put a big sign that was like, go here. I think there's a way you can like make the URL do it, but I don't know enough about it to do that. But
we're
anyway,
old. We can't do this internet
I'm
shit.
mistaken. Your Facebook page is Daniel Moeller, artist, author, astral entrepreneur, but you're right, it's Daniel Moeller Web. So it's Daniel Moeller
The handle, yeah.
everywhere.
I probably need to change that too.
Anyway,
yeah.
long story
I'm sure
short,
people are
go
loving
there,
this conversation.
buy stuff. Yeah, this is like, Jesus, turn this off. These old fuckers don't know what they're doing.
You want to sit and talk about our backaches and
Yeah,
our
it is awful cold
shit.
out there, so that's why the bourbon. All right,
Dude, thanks for an awesome Mind of Five. This was a really good one. Loved
This was a
doing
fun
it.
one. Oh, man, it
Yeah.
was a long one too.
Yep.
See how the edit turns out, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to edit a single fucking thing. They're going to have to watch the whole thing. All right. Anyway, you take it easy, man, and keep it psycho.
Yep. You too. Take it easy.